creating authentic content that resonates with you. Because if you feel like shit, you're not going to show up. And how are you going to empower anyone with your content? So I'm really big of like, take care of you. And then the next step of then you could share.
Hey guys, this is Judy, and on this episode of the Judy Diaries, I am interviewing the one and only Kelly Bennett. Her expertise is in social media, and she has been doing social media for businesses since 2009. She's worked with some very well-known restaurants and projects in downtown Las Vegas, so I got to sit down with her and ask her all of her social media tips and about her new course that she just launched called Your First 1,500 Followers. So let's dive right into it. So, hello, Kelly. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to talk to you. I know that you are a social media queen in Las Vegas. I've been following you for kind of a while, since probably like Veggie Nation started. Not the first one, but maybe the Henderson one is when I really started to like notice you, and I knew that you were like doing their social and stuff. So I know you've been doing this for a long time.
So much. I appreciate that.
But I really want to know like how you got started in the social media space and how you really ended up here.
Yeah, well, first, thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. This is awesome. I really appreciate it. And I started out in social media in 2009. I just graduated. I went to UNLV, and I graduated with a bunch of degrees because I always knew I wanted to use business and particularly marketing and information to really empower people to make really positive decisions in their lives. Like, we're all going to consume, right? Yeah. But how do we make better consumption choices? At the time, I didn't know how to articulate that, but over time, I started seeing like Whole Foods would always be my example in school of like, this is the type of consumers I want to work with, and this is how they want to be marketed to, and they want to shop along with their morals, ethics, and values. And at that time, people were like, you're adorable, go hug a tree, like, but that's not the real world. But I was like, there has to be something. So I ended up graduating with degrees in marketing, international business, business administration, psychology, a minor in psychology, and a minor in Chinese language. I ended up studying abroad twice in China. It was all just like really going for it. So long story short, in 2009, when I graduated college, I was like, okay, so what the hell, how do I put this all together? The first job I got was an internship at an ad agency, and they specialized in casino marketing. I was living in Vegas, makes sense. So there I knew right off the bat, okay, this is for sure not what I want to focus on, but they were really into social media. So I started learning about businesses using social media. And at the I personally did not like social media. Like, I didn't have a Facebook really. Like, it just wasn't my thing for me as a person. Like, my first Facebook account, like, my friend created it for me while we were studying abroad in China. Like, I remember telling him, like, I'll never use social media. I don't get it. Like, I'm not into it. So in 2009, when I was starting to see Twitter, what was really so cool to me is that you could talk directly to a consumer. You could talk directly to your customers, your clients, or potential clients, and you could really connect with community and find like-minded people. And that was like the light bulb. I was like, wow, I've never seen anything like that. So my first account was actually getting the MGM Grand on Twitter. I was at like a networking event, and I was just talking to someone, and I was talking about studying abroad, and we just were talking. It wasn't really like business talk. And then she was like, oh, what do you do? And I said, oh, I just started interning at this agency. I'm really into like social media. And she was like, do you think it's going to be important for brands to be on social media? And I said, I really think so. It's just so cool because you can connect with people directly. And she was like, well, I'm the marketing director of the MGM Grand. Like, can you set it up for me? And I was like, yeah, sure. We'll start with Twitter. And I remember going home and like Googling like how to launch a business on Twitter, because I was like, I don't really know how to do it, but I know that it's needed. And now you think about it, like, of course the MGM has Twitter and social media. Like but back then it was still like, is this important? So that
Yeah.
was my first client at the agency. I brought them on, and it was my job to get them on Twitter, teach them the basics on how to use it, and have it designed, working with a graphic designer, and then getting them all set up. So that was my
Wow.
first thing, and I was like, well, that's cool. Like
So that was back in 2009?
2009, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy because that's before anyone really. That's what when I saw that, I was like, how did you even get into social media at that time? Like, I don't even think I
Yeah.
was on social media at the time.
I personally wasn't, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Like, it was right when like you were starting to be able to go onto Facebook without a college email. And even before that, like MySpace and stuff like that, I just was
Yeah.
never really into it though. But when I saw brands could do it,
Mhm.
and I saw how that could help build businesses and connect with like-minded people, I was sold. So then in 2010, that's when I started really getting into it, and I launched my own lifestyle blog. And then from there, my whole career took off. But it really just started with Twitter, getting the MGM on Twitter, and then getting that experience under my belt. And then it's a crazy story, but yeah, I started from there.
That's insane. So your lifestyle blog, what did you write about?
So at that same time, I was going vegan,
Oh,
and I was living back because I'm originally from New York, but I kept going back and forth from New York City to Vegas. And in one of my travels going back to New York, I became vegan, and I was super passionate about it. But my family was just sick of me talking about veganism. And they're like, we get it, you're vegan. Like, go talk to people who want to talk to you about it. So I'm like, okay. So I went on Twitter and I was like, hashtag vegan. And then I started making connections with people, and it was really cool. Then I started a blog. It was called veganconsultant.com. And I started blogging about food and fashion, lifestyle tips, how to deal with family who isn't vegan, and just really started creating this community. And then also, too, I was interviewing people who were writing books, people who were getting shows, people who were also much more established in their career of like, how are you doing this? How are you creating your own career, basically doing what you love? So I started interviewing people, and then that took off. It won a few awards, like Deepak Chopra tweeted about it, and it was really cool. Then I got written up in the Huffington Post. I got on national TV, and I, more importantly, started building a community of people who like to read what I wrote. And I'm terribly dyslexic. I'm not a videographer. I'm not a photographer. So it was just very raw, uncut, like me taking YouTube videos like in my room. Like it was not like poor lighting, unedited. I still don't know how to edit videos. I share content, but it really started resonating with people. So from there, I also got job opportunities. And that's how I started building my career, because I now had an established blog. It had some credibility, and I was able to experiment with content and start really honing in on my skills in social media and applying that to how to launch brands, and particularly brands who want to give value and education and want to connect with consumers in like a more meaningful way on how to do that.
that's so crazy. I didn't know all of that. So this is literally like 10 years in the making.
Yes.
And you were kind of on this before everyone else was. Like everyone is, they weren't doing blogs back then. They weren't doing like
Yeah,
crazy YouTube.
2010, 11 was like when blogs were starting to become more popular.
Really?
No, that's when a lot of my friends who are now super successful, especially in the vegan space, started blogging, and now who has a TV show or who has on their third cookbook, who has product deals. You know, they all kind of, it was in the same kind of time when they were starting to blog,
So
which is,
is that how you got clients like Veggie Nation? Was you were
yeah.
already in that vegan space?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I started there because it was a personal passion of mine. And that's what I recommend to people who are just starting out. Like, find what you want to talk about, right? Because I think people get really stressed out about social, that they're like, I know I need to be on, but I don't know how to do it. I'm like, what do you actually want to talk about? That start talking about that, right? It's just a conversation. So because I really hone in on talking about veganism, even before Veganation, when I was living in New York City, I just called a publisher of a health and wellness magazine who didn't have social and said, hey, I'll do your social for free. I'm building my portfolio. She said yes. And that ended up being like the largest health and wellness publication in the United States at that time. And then they hired me to teach all their publishers how to do social media. So it was like just honestly niching down, but also putting myself out there. And then over the years, experimenting with different projects. So even before Veganation, Vegas Roots Community Garden here in Las Vegas, they were one of my first clients.
Wow.
Yeah, it was during their rebrand. They changed their name, so I worked on their social. Then it was the Sunday Reset Project that used to be downtown. And for 3 years, we would host a Sunday, the first Sunday of the month, a health and wellness event. And the food was catered by Veganation, but it wasn't even a restaurant yet. So that was 3 years before the restaurant even opened.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so Chef Donald and I signed on to be the creative director and partner. So we were building that brand while even working on another brand, but they all worked together. So for 3 years, we were building this brand. And then when the restaurant opened, it had such a great engagement, and people were already like diehard fans of it because we had been doing all that community work online and offline before it opened. But yeah, Chef Donald found out about me through my vegan blog.
Wow. So I'm just curious, this is kind of off topic, but what brought you to Las Vegas?
So originally, my family wanted to move out here. I
Okay.
had graduated with an associate's degree in New York from a community college, and my sister just graduated high school. What was that, like 2005? And my parents wanted to move to Vegas, and so I was like, "All right, I'll try it." And so that I applied to UNLV. I got in, and my sister did too, and we were just like, "All right, we'll move to Vegas."
Okay.
Because
Yeah, because you're so involved in the Vegas community and especially downtown community. So I just wonder, I didn't know that you weren't from here. So
yeah, I moved
that's
here originally in 2005, and I left quite a few times, but I've been back like downtown. I really haven't left like this block.
have you always lived downtown?
Yeah, for about 6 years I've been downtown. I lived in Henderson for like 4 days, and I was like, no.
Not about it.
Not about it. And
That's
I
funny.
came back downtown. Yeah.
That's so funny. So I grew up in Henderson,
Oh,
and
cool.
yeah, and me and my fiance actually moved downtown last year, and we lived there for like 6 months, and we were like not having this. We moved back
It's a
out.
different vibe. Yeah. To me, it
It is.
reminds me of New York, and that's why I like it.
Yes, it
You know,
does. Yeah, I
it
can see that with the high rises
with the high
buildings.
rises, and I don't have a car, so I just
Yeah.
and
Oh, that's nice. That's good for the environment, though. Like
yeah,
that's what we were like. Okay, so but in the summertime, it gets way too hot to go anywhere.
super hot. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to already plot where I could go this summer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, get out of Vegas.
Get out of Vegas. But no, the Vegas community has been so kind and so welcoming, and I'm so grateful because honestly, the Vegas community changed my life. Like, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now without the Vegas community. So I am always grateful. And a lot of my friends were like, "You're crazy," because I was living back in New York City. I lived on a urban residential farm in Queens, which was really cool. I was doing their social, and we were building that brand. And I was like, "Guys, I gotta go though, because I have this opportunity in Vegas. It's a vegan restaurant." And they're like, "You're crazy. Don't ever leave New York." And I was like, "No, there's something there. I'm telling you, like, there's this whole movement." And yeah, I left. That was 6 years ago.
I think you were really like a big part of that culture. I think that like from me just watching and observing, I think that you were like a big part of like creating that downtown culture. So I think that's really
That's
awesome.
really nice. Yeah, honestly, there's so many people down here doing so many incredible things, and even before a lot of the investment happened downtown, there was a rich community here who was doing cool things. And for me, it was really important to already connect with people who were doing the work here already. And like, how can we support and how can we work together versus me just coming in thinking I know everything and this is how it's going to be done. Like, I really wanted to build relationships and make sure that we're incorporating people who are already doing cool things downtown and across the valley. But that was a big part of the restaurant, of tuning into people who are already doing cool things.
Yeah. So, how did you discover that social media was something that you can do as a business? And you launched a bunch of companies and brands, but how did you turn that into something that you can do for yourself, like as an entrepreneur?
Totally. So that's a great question. I would say the first thing is that I've been really honing in on my skills. Like, because social media wasn't even taught, if you could imagine, like graduating with degrees in marketing, say today, and they don't talk about social media, like it would be blow your mind, right? I literally graduated with degrees in marketing, psychology, international, and we never talked about social media. So for the last, since 2009, when is it, 2020, I've just been honing in on my skills. And that's been the biggest thing. I've just been really curious and wanting to experiment with content and trying different things. And that's why I did a lot of unpaid work too, just to get the experience and be like, let me test out this thesis. It worked on this brand, but let me see if it could work here. What would be unique for this brand that wouldn't work anywhere else? And just practice. I've created so much content, and even on my own personal page, and I've deleted so much because I've changed so many times over the years that I'm like, I'm kicking. That's the only like regret, is like I had so much more content, but every time I like rebranded myself, I'm like, I need to delete it all, start over. But there's some stuff that I've saved over the years, and I'm glad, because now, after the years, so doing this like 11 years, now I'm like, okay, I have a method, I have a process. I can really, where I know I'm really good at is teaching people and encouraging people how to start, right? How to start sharing their voice on social, how to start launching their brand, creating their brand, how to cultivate community, like that beginning stages of when you might feel really shy or awkward or overthinking it and stressing of like how to actually start. Like, I'm really passionate about that part. And that's the part I've been really honing in on for the last 11 years. So in September, so after Vegination, just go back a little bit, I was the marketing director of Ferguson's Downtown, which is a whole city block. And we did markets and food and beverage events and community gatherings, and it was awesome. And then again, it was new, but they already had their platform started. So my job was like, how do we then grow it? Like, it's still in the launch phase, but it was like, how do we really cultivate it and then bring thousands of people to these events? So that was a really cool experience too. So then again, sharpening my skills, we managed about 6 different accounts in that one project. So that was a lot, in how to make the content unique and how to make it all tell the same story, but and their brand extensions all still individual too. So that was a really great way to polish my skills.
Was that just you, or was there a team
No,
of you doing the socials?
thankfully I had Ava Zek, who was amazing, and she was my partner in crime. And so we worked together every single day, many days, doing that. And then Jen Taller, who is the co-founder and creative strategist, she had a lot of great creative ideas. And then later on, the team built of like who could help with graphics and working with different artists. And Ashley Ayala, she came on, and we both started at the same time, just curating Market in the Alley. So, and then we had great production teams. So it was definitely a team, but it was a small team. But it was really cool to help drive just like all the content and social and marketing. And then we experimented with like starting a podcast, and then we did a weekly like TV show called Mondays, when we would talk about what's going on in the city block. And it was just really fun because I never worked on a team. Like, I've always just been doing it myself. And even at the restaurant, like I would host so many things and do so much content, like hundreds of events. But it was me. I was a team of one, really. Like Chef Donald, he did all the food and I did all the social, and we would have like our once a week meetings, but then like we did our own thing. So then going to a team and explaining stuff and talking through things and looking at the analytics, like that was a whole new experience, which was a great experience. I'm really grateful. And then in July, I just had this feeling. I was like, for a lot of reasons, but I was like, I want to work for myself again, because I have done it here and there, but then the restaurant came up and I was like, I got to do this. Or, Ferguson's came up. I'm like, I can't skip on this. So in July, I was like, Kelly, this was not planned, but this is your moment. So in September, that's when I launched my business. It's shifted a little bit, but really my business now is teaching how to launch your brand with social media and teaching my methods and skills and really giving the people the courage and the confidence to share and
Yes.
in their own authentic way.
So was this your first time doing a course then?
No, I've been teaching online since 2013.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So you've
so
been doing that for a while too.
yeah, I've been doing that for a while. It was in different parts. So I taught journaling workshops online. I taught social media workshops online, but it wasn't necessarily. It was under my personal brand, but again, I was doing other projects at the same time. It was never my main focus, but it was a skill that I knew that eventually I wanted to be my full-time business. It just took till 2020 to put it all together. But yeah, and it's funny, when I was working on my new course, I was going through old content, and it's literally a picture of me in my old room in Vegas, and it was a little sign that said press record, and I used to call my big old laptop, and it was me teaching a course on how to set up your Instagram.
Oh, wow.
From 2014.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I
So,
really feel like you've always just been in the forefront of all this stuff.
oh,
Like,
thank you.
people are just now starting to catch up to you.
Yeah, I know. It was funny. I was writing a post the other day. I'm like, it may seem like overnight this all has been coming together, but I promise you, it's been literally at least 10 years of just working on it every day.
Yeah, and I think you just got in on it on such a great time. You were just like a pioneer for a lot
Oh,
of this
thank
stuff.
you. And there's so many people who I've learned from, and like Gary Vaynerchuk is like my person I really look up to, and I got to meet him this year. And like,
Oh, really? How was
yes,
that?
I was like, I didn't cry. I ran home and like bawled my eyes out because I'm like, you like really changed my life, and I've been applying what I've learned from you. And he was like, oh, and he gave me a hug, and I was like, so that also was like a full circle moment for me to like meet someone who he was really the only person I knew of that was doing social in the way that really felt authentic to me.
Yeah.
So I would just listen to his YouTube videos like every single day, and listen to his podcasts and listen to his audiobooks. Like he was always in my ear. And yeah, this year I got to meet him and say thank you.
That's so crazy. We were just
Yeah.
talking about how he pretty much started this whole kind of content game where it's like whoever is putting out the most consistent content every day and that's meaningful and educational, like he kind of built that like whole structure of like
He
that's
did.
how you do it. So
Yeah, he did.
that's so cool that you got to meet him.
Yeah.
You work with social media a lot.
Mhm.
How do you set healthy boundaries? How do you have a healthy relationship with social media? Because it can get very tiring.
Which is a great question. And honestly, I'm really working on this myself because I have had um, somewhat unhealthy relationships with social because I was always on it. But to me, it was always like market research. And especially with the restaurants, now I had so many people all the time engaging with that brand. I just always wanted to see what was happening. So this time around in my own business, I'm pretty much working, say, Monday through Friday, and being on social is part of my job. So I have more boundaries, and like sometimes on the weekends I'll literally delete the social media apps off my phone just so
Oh, wow.
I'm not tempted to look at it. And I'm really being more mindful of my time. There are some days that I'm gonna be on it later because maybe I'm working on something or something I'm just doing, like, because I also learn a lot on social. A lot of people I follow, I take their classes or I'm on their Patreon. Um, and then sometimes, I've mindlessly scrolled too. So something that I've been really practicing in what I teach as well is like having really an intention before you log on, and really putting a mindfulness around the time that you want to spend on there. It's not always perfect, but at least bring that mindfulness to it and intention. It will help with just scrolling. And I think when you start using social with your business and your brand, like, you just have to put it in the space of when you're working on your business, and treat it like a meeting, and treat it like a space where you're meeting up with people and building relationships, and not something that you're doing mindlessly. I think that's
Yeah.
really important. And then sometimes if you need a break, like, take a break. I think a lot of people, they think once they turn on the light for social media, they always have to be on and always on camera, and that's not true. Like, you could dim the lights, you could take a pause. I just made a video on that too, of like, if you need a pause, if you don't feel like talking on the internet today, don't
Yeah. Yeah,
don't
I saw that.
and then recharge, and then the next day you might feel like it, and having some, mindfulness around what works for you. And that's why I really practice of like creating authentic content that resonates with you, because if
Mhm.
you feel like shit, you're not going to show up. And
Yeah.
how are you going to empower anyone with your content? So I'm really big of like, take care of you, and then the next step of then you could share.
Sometimes it can feel just so like you have so much pressure to show up every single day. And if you don't, it's like, oh, am I letting these people down? But I really like that you say it's about taking care of you first, because if you're not full, if your cup isn't full, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yes,
So
I've tried to
yeah.
pick up. I
Yes, me
remember
too.
one time I did 21 events in a row every
Oh,
day. I did an event for 21 days in a row. By the 21st day, and I was filming everything, documenting on social, email blasts, in person. It was wild. It was great. It was at
oh my
Benjamin,
gosh.
but it was insane. Our
Oh
sales
my
went through the
gosh.
roof. It was amazing. But on the 21st day, I was in bed. Like, I literally couldn't walk. Like, all the energy was drained from my
Oh
body.
my
And I had
goodness.
to send my girlfriend at the time to the restaurant. I'm like, take my phone, go live on Instagram. And she's like, are you okay? I'm like, I'll be fine. Just go live. You have to go for me. So I've tried, but I know the power of it. And when you just take care of yourself and you find your own personal groove with it, it's incredible what you could do with it.
Mhm. And when you feel charged up, you have more value to give. So it's better for your audience that way anyways.
Totally. And I'm really big, and I've been talking more about this of like, if you feel like you're in a really good groove and like you have good lighting and like you're in it, like, make a few videos or take a few photos, and like, you could, even if you have the same clothes on, I always wear the same clothes. I'm a minimalist with my style and whatever. Cool. Just to do a few of them. Like, if you're feeling it, get the most out of it. So when you're not feeling it, you're like, oh, I could post this photo or this video. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have
Yeah.
more stuff saved on your phone. I do everything from my phone, all my content, and I've been doing that for 11 years. So I'm really big of like, just document what you're already doing. How can you just capture this moment or reflect on this moment? Get as much when you're feeling it, gather as much as you can. So when you're not feeling it, you have stuff to talk about.
That's great. That's great advice, because I've seen that before where people say like do batch content and stuff like that, and I'm like I have trouble doing like one thing. I'm like, how can I? But I like that idea of just like do multiple videos if you're feeling it, do
Yeah.
multiple stuff. That's really actionable like advice that anyone can do.
Yeah. And it's easy. It's
Mhm.
really easy. Something simple. Even like the other day, I was having coffee in my apartment, and it was honestly, I was just drinking coffee in my apartment, and I was like, oh, this kind of looks cute. So I just took a picture. Then I saved it on my phone, and then the other day I was like, what the hell can I talk about? And I knew what I wanted to talk about, but I didn't have any pictures. So I was just going through my phone. I'm like, oh, this picture from this little corner of my apartment with coffee would work. So I just filtered it a little bit to make sure it was like cohesive with the coloring. And then I used that picture and I wrote a post. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not these type of person that like everything looks like a photographer lives in your house with you. Like, there's some people who are like on another level with,
Super on point
like,
with that.
legit, like, do you live with a photographer? Because like, I just don't understand how your whole world is so curated, and like, especially during this time, like, how are you just getting all these pictures taken of you? So there's some people who are like super pro at that, and like, good for them. That is never my style, and that will never be my style. I'm just more for like documenting authentically what you're already doing and storytelling who you are as a person, because at the end of the day, that's what people really resonate with the most.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you about like your creative process, like how you come up with what you want to share that day, or just any post in general. What do you have a process for coming up with topics?
I do. So right now, before with my personal brand, when I was working on other projects, it was kind of like falling at the bottom, to be honest. So I was more just sharing little bits of like all the events I was doing and the projects I was working on. I was trying to share some more behind the scenes. But now, because I am full time now working for myself again, I've had more time to be more mindful, and I have to be more mindful because now people are like, what are you doing? Some people still ask me like what I do, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. So now I'm more intentional, and what I like to do is like think of like 4 to 5 different things that I love to talk about, but also I'm listening. I listen a lot, and this is what really resonates with people. So then I hone in on that, and then from there I'm like, okay, how can I do that consistently throughout the week? I personally don't map out things like 30 days in advance or anything like that. I pretty much take it week by week because I'm very much of like what is truly on my heart and in the context of. And so I like to take it week by week, but I have different categories of topics and conversations that, one, feels really good when I share about it, and then two, I've listened to people and they're like, I really appreciate when you talk about this, or can you talk more about that? And things that have come up that I'm like, oh, okay, I wouldn't even thought of that because I didn't realize you were finding value in something I was doing. Or I've done like really fun stuff. Like I did a series called I Kind of Got Dressed Today. And it was honestly me just like on days that I should have done my laundry, to be honest with you. And I was like mixing and matching all these crazy outfits because I was living in an Airstream at the time and I didn't have a lot of space. So it was just like, it was funny and goofy, but so many people are like, oh my gosh, I love when you do those videos because you don't take yourself that seriously, and that was really inspiring to me. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then at Veganation, I did one called Taco Tuesday Live. And I would get a bunch of tacos that we did a pop up, a different taco every week. And I would eat tacos, and then I would invite someone to come and eat tacos with me. And I would interview them. And
Oh,
we
cool.
called it Taco Tuesday Live. And again, it was so just like simple and fun, but people would tune in and they're like, who's your guest this week on Taco Tuesday Live? Or what's the pop up taco? And then we would be live and people would be coming into the restaurant and like, hey, we just saw you on live and we were hungry. Like that stuff, like I geek out on it. We did another one at Veganation with a chef, 5-course chef's dinner. And I would go live and eat the food and drink the wine, and then people would come and eat.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I would
What a great job.
I would go live around 5 o'clock when I knew people were coming off of work and they were driving home, so they hopefully would see the notification that we were live. And then people would literally come and be like, "It looks like you're having a good time," and I would just eat and talk like I'm not that etiquette, you know. I'm like, oh my god, this is so good, and like, what are you guys doing? And I would just literally talk to people on the internet, and then they would come and eat dinner.
That's great. So do you like doing lives?
I do.
Okay.
I love doing lives. Now I'm experimenting. I have a podcast as well of doing my podcast live or just like going live in general. It's definitely better when you have like a bigger account because just the likelihood of more people coming on is greater.
Yeah.
At Vegination, when I left, we had over 35,000 followers. So when I would go live, it was like a lot of people around the world. So that was really cool. On my personal one, it's building, but when I
Yeah.
do go live, it's really nice to engage with people.
Yeah, I did my first live. It was like an interview podcast, but live on Instagram, and I was really expecting a lot of people to come in, and but it was just kind of like people would come and go, so it wasn't like people didn't stay. But um, yeah, I just didn't know if that was something that I should like start building more, or if it's just
I think it's good once you get a little bit more people on because then again the likelihood of people tuning in, but also making it a thing. So something that I do on my channel, I'm pausing it right now and then relaunching it in the new year, but I do interviews every week. And it's
okay.
kind of an homage to how I first started back in 2010 interviewing people. But now I do it live on Instagram because it's great because their followers get notified, my followers get notified, and it's a great way to connect with people. Then you could save it now automatically to IGTV, so it's another piece of content. And so I love doing interviews live.
Mhm.
That's my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep working on that then.
Yeah, absolutely. So even if you do a podcast episode, we could then do, say, an Instagram live when this podcast is published, and do like
Yeah.
a promo to then listen to the podcast, give a little sneak peek, do a countdown. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so that's a good way to make the lives
It's
feel
like
more.
building hype around whatever, if it's an event or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's great. You've actually done launches before in terms of online courses, but is there anything that you learned this time around that you thought that, oh, maybe I'll change this for the next time, or did you learn anything from this go around?
Totally. So for this go around, I launched my course, like said, like, okay, I'm making this into a course. I'm launching it within a week.
Oh.
Because it was small business. Yeah. It was small business Saturday. Like I had this idea and I'm like, okay, so on Small Business Saturday, I'm launching my course. And I had a week. So I redid my website. I figured out how to do an online platform. I changed over website platforms. I already had some experience because the workshop downtown, which I'm the co founder of, we use this website called Kajabi. And
Okay.
so I knew a little bit about it, but then I literally gave myself a week. I'm like, you're going to create the course, you're going to create your new website, you're going to promote it. So next time around, I would want to give myself a little bit more time because I was like, hey everyone, guess what? This is what I'm doing and would show behind the scenes, but also I was just in the hustle of getting it done. So I didn't show that much behind the scenes. So now, like starting next week too, just getting more intentional around the content of what the course is and promoting it more because I just like created it, launched it, and then this week was a lot of like getting everyone who signed up first to get them into the course and make sure it was all good and it was all working and perfect. And then next week I'm really working on being more intentional of talking more about it.
Hmm. That's crazy
Yeah.
that you did that in a week. Oh my God. I can't even imagine.
I sometimes get these ideas that I'm like, oh yeah, done, you know. So rolling with
That's
it.
great.
Yeah,
That's great. So who is this Instagram course for? Who did you design this for?
that's a great question. I designed it for someone who's starting out, someone who either has a personal brand or a lifestyle brand who is, I keep saying like under 1,500 followers because that's usually when you're first starting out. And like, you want to be sharing more, you want to inspire people, you want to make an impact, you want to build your brand and organically grow your business and do that with a community and share things that feel authentic to you, but you're not quite sure how to make that happen. So the course is really that it's 8 weeks and it's step by step going through it. So how to identify your voice, your brand values, how to refine your profile. So going over everything like photo, name, bio, links, going over highlights, your grid, guides, reels, IGTV, the whole thing. And then how does that also connect with your brand experience? So from a post, what's the next step? Then where do they hear more about you? Making sure it's cohesive. So that, and then we go over how to create authentic content, how to use your phone to create content, how to do the tried and true posts to reach your goals with your brand and business, but how do you do innovative stuff like reels and guides and keywords, because it was great because Instagram just rolled out all those updates right before the course. So it's like it was perfect timing. So it's all like the really good stuff that I know. Been doing this for 11 years and now also using the new updates. And I focus particularly on Instagram because for me, it's the most creative. It's a great place to experiment with content and then also teaching people how to repurpose content. So if you've made a really great video, okay, how do you share that on YouTube and shift it to then be native for that platform, or LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and really teaching people how to have calls to action, how to write copy, how to then promote, products or services, how to create your content calendar, and just really going through it step by step.
Oh
And
my, I can't believe you did this in a week.
yeah, yeah.
That's insane. That's a lot of content. That's a lot of
It's a lot of
information.
work, and it's all on video.
Oh, wow.
Each week has a worksheet. And I also added my journaling for creatives workshop to help people really feel inspired and engaged, and overall just helping them tune into their own creative intuition. Like, what do you really want to create? What is the brand you really want to build? And how can you do that with social media? And with the highs and the lows, like when you're feeling burnt out or you're feeling you have nothing to say, or if you're not sure if it's good or not and you feel awkward, or especially for introverts, I'm an introvert myself, like how to work through that and how to have the courage to just get started. So we cover all of that in the course.
That is insane. But it
Oh,
sounds like
thank
it's
you.
exactly what someone would need if they're just starting out and they have no clue what they're
Yeah,
doing.
I love when people are starting out. That's my
Yeah.
thing. Like encouraging and teaching people how to start. Like if someone's eager to like, yes, I want to do this, like the course is a great step by step. And then it's automated, and it's self-paced. So once you join the course, you get the first week released, and then the second week is released. And then you can ask questions. It's very like it's an online class, but it's very personable because for me, that's very much important with my personal brand of having that actual engagement with people. And then each week we do a creative challenge to then make sure people are implementing and taking that action to really start them now learning what it feels like and building that momentum. So each week builds upon itself, and then you could go back and rewatch it, pause. So I'm really proud of it.
That sounds amazing. So I'm just curious. This is way off topic there, but what is your morning routine like? Do you have a morning routine?
Yeah, when I'm really good, I do. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
because I don't. But something I do, I talked about journaling for creatives. So that was actually the first workshop I ever taught. And I taught it online, and then I also taught it in person. And Vegas was the first time I ever taught it in person. And I was living in New York. I flew to Vegas to move back here again, and the event sold out, and I wasn't even in town.
Oh my
Or
gosh.
yeah, so I'll always give Vegas love. So anyway, this is my style of journaling. I call it journaling for creatives, and I do this journaling practice every morning. And it just helps me organize my thoughts, really tune into the support I would really love to feel that day, and also what am I thankful for, and really being mindful of like the little things and the big things. And I do that every single day, and I drink coffee, and I usually drink a smoothie. I usually go for a morning walk. Right now I'm puppy sitting, so I'm just hanging out with a puppy in the morning.
Mhm.
But yeah, just those little things that I do consistently really help. Making sure I somewhat kind of get dressed that day. Because I work from home, I live at here, especially during this time. So just making sure
Yeah,
I'm kind of getting dressed. And then that's it. That's really it. Keep it simple.
that's awesome. I love journaling. It's like what I have been talking about the past couple days, and I just realized how much it has changed my life. So I love that you journal.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, journal, people.
Yes, I'm a big advocate for journaling and really tuning into your own creative intuition. You know,
Yeah.
I think especially social media can get really noisy and everyone has
Yes.
advice for you and everyone is telling
Yes.
you to do this and everyone has a course and it could be like, whoa, like this is so much. So I really love pairing the journaling with it because I'm like, okay, how do you want to feel? What is the support you want? What is making you happy? What is not making you happy? And the more that you could just build that skill of listening to yourself, I think that is just so impactful for your business, and especially when you start getting followers so you can tune into really what you want, and also just for your life.
Yeah.
I've used this to help launch businesses and brands, social relationships, moving. I wrote down in my journal like I want an apartment with lots of sunlight with and I could have plants, and I moved during a pandemic, and how am I going, because I was living in an airstream, like how am I going to find furniture? And literally, I found a girl who needed someone to take over her sublease and take all of her furniture. And this was her apartment.
That's awesome.
So again, it's like tuning in and really just listening.
That's so cool. Yes, journaling is the shit. Like it is so important for me, especially even with like you talked about creativity, but also like I realize that when I don't journal at night, I'm like I can't go to sleep because I'm like I have to do this, this, and this, and this in the morning. But when I journal,
I
I just
outline it. Yeah, I outline my day the night before because again, it
yes,
just helps clear my mind.
me too. Yeah, I think that's super important. And then just what challenges are you currently facing right now? Do you have any?
Yeah, I would say when you put yourself out there, and especially when you are selling something or you have a new product or service, like it feels so awkward. And even though I've been doing this 11 years, and this for sure is not my first course, and literally I was saying like I've been teaching since 2013, I still get like nervous and I still feel kind of like awkward talking about stuff because I'm like, I don't know, are people gonna like it? Does this make sense? So I'm currently working through my own awkwardness. But what's cool is that like I've been documenting me feeling awkward and working through it, and people really resonate with that. So it's been like these really great conversations. So they're like, oh my gosh, we see you. Like, thank you for sharing the behind the scenes because people may assume like I don't get anxious or like feel awkward or that I'm even an introvert, because I think I come off more outgoing than I maybe really am. So yeah, I just been working through that and being more open of sharing that because I also had a lot of pressure on myself of like, you can't share too much about that because would people trust you if they feel like you're being awkward, so the more I'm just allowing myself to be transparent, the more I feel better and the more people resonate with me. And honestly, it's been helpful also with people trusting me and wanting to work with me, which is cool.
Yeah, I think people would more resonate with that rather than someone who they can't relate to. They're like, oh, this person, they don't think like me, like they've got it all figured out, you know? But
Yeah.
when you show that side, it's like, okay, well, if she can do this, like I can do it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So I've just been more open about that, which has been
that's,
really nice.
yeah, that's really awesome. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I could talk to you all day, but
Oh,
I'm
thank you
so
so
glad
much.
that you took the time to sit with me and just talk with me today. So thank you so much. Oh, definitely plug yourself. plug your
Awesome.
everything. Go ahead.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for having me. You made my day, and your questions were
Awesome.
really awesome. So thank you.
Thank you.
You can follow me on Instagram at with Kelly Bennett, and my website is withkellybennett.com. And my course, if that sounded awesome to you, I would love to have you. It's called Your First 1,500 Followers, and just teaching you step by step on how to get started. And that's really it. That's where I hang out the most. And yeah, just thank you again for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Everyone go check out that course. It's amazing, I'm
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.